Hello children, hello everybody, I'm Sam. Welcome to today's online field trip where we're going to teach you everything you've always wanted to know about wrinkly raisins. Now meet Debbie, she's our first expert for today. Hello Debbie.
Hello.
We're going to meet our second expert, Jonathan, a little later on in this online field trip. But first of all, as you can see, we're here today at a raisin packing factory. We're actually in Northamptonshire, which is in the middle of the country. And right now we're surrounded by around 20 million packets of dried fruit, which has come from all over the world, around 15 countries. That's pretty amazing, isn't it, Debbie?
It is, phenomenal number, very good, yeah.
Great stuff. Now give us a wave and a cheer in your classrooms, children, if you're looking forward to learning all about wrinkly raisins today. Great stuff. So that's St Cuthbert's Primary there. They're very excited to learn all about it. So Debbie, what are we going to learn?
Today we're going to be learning about raisins, what they are and how they are made. We're also going to be learning about why and how we preserve food, and also what other foods can we use raisins in.
Really, really good stuff. Well, let's meet our schools. We have heard them, we've seen them wave. Let's go to St Cuthbert's Primary now, first of all. They're in Cumbria, and it's actually Mrs Robinson's class that's taking part today. Nice and loud over there at St Cuthbert's. Let's go over to Waterloo Primary now. They're in Lancashire and it's Miss Jones's class. Hello everybody. Hi. Great stuff. We're going to stay in Lancashire now. We're going to go over to Mrs Plackett's class. They're in Ravenshead Primary. Hello everybody. Hi. Lots of fabulous smiley faces there. And finally, let's go to Clown Infants in Derbyshire, where Miss Barnett's class is taking part. Hello everybody. It's great to have you all with us, nice and loud as well, very keen to learn. So let's start learning. First of all, Debbie, whereabouts are we?
Today we are in our finished goods warehouse, surrounded by over 20 million packets of different fruits from all over the world, from countries like China, America, Chile, South Africa, fruits varying from apples, pineapples, coconuts, raisins, sultanas.
That's a lot of fruit, so I'm guessing this place is quite big. From what I can see so far, it is huge.
This warehouse is that big that you can actually fit 10 football pitches inside this warehouse.
Wow, so one football pitch, children, if you can imagine, that is big enough, but 10 football pitches inside here.
It's very big.
So first of all, as I said, we're learning about raisins. So what is a raisin?
A raisin is literally a grape that has been left out in the sun to dry for about 3 weeks.
Wow, and what type of grapes are used to make raisins?
So the type of grape is the white grape. It's actually the green grape that you get from the supermarket, and it's called the Thompson seedless variety. There's a difference between a raisin, a sultana and a currant. So a raisin is a white grape naturally dried in the sun for 3 weeks.
Right.
A sultana is using the same grape but then dipped in a special solution to speed up the drying process. And a currant is using the black Corinth grape, which again is naturally dried in the sun.
Wow, so they're all quite different then. So where are the grapes grown? I'm guessing we don't grow many in the UK.
We do grow a few in the UK, but we don't really have the ideal climate to produce many grapes. So these grapes come from California, and California grow loads and loads of grapes. And the reason why they grow loads of grapes in California is because the weather is so hot and sunny that it helps the grapes be able to dry out and turn into raisins.
Of course, we do need the sunshine. So how did people realise that leaving grapes out in the sunshine turn grapes into raisins?
Well, grapes goes back to prehistoric times, and they actually originated and came from the Middle East. And basically the raisins were just discovered really on a vine that had just been left to dry, so the raisin had just been left on the vine to dry. And production by humans dates back by at least 3,000 years.
Wow, so it's kind of by an accident. I love that.
Yes, absolutely, yes.
So why did people then start drying them?
Well, this day and age you can eat what you want when you want, because you can grow things in greenhouses, or we can import them from warmer countries. Historically, it hasn't always been that way. So they've had to buy fresh fruit and vegetables at the time when it was in season, and they've had to find a way of storing the products to last them through the winter time when there is no season around.
Oh, it's so clever. We're learning so much. Thank you so much, Debbie. But I do know that our schools have been learning all about raisins before today's online field trip, using all the resources that we do have online to help you learn. So I'd love to find out what St Cuthbert's has learned so far before today. Do we have someone there, Mrs Robinson? Can we find out your favourite fact about raisins you've learned?
Hello, my name's Rosa. Did you know that half of the world's raisins come from California?
Great stuff. So St Cuthbert's Primary have learned that half the world's raisins come from California.
It's at least half. It might even be nearer 80% come from California, and that is again because of their perfect climate for that.
Great, really, really good learning, St Cuthbert's. Let's go over to Waterloo Primary now. Do we have someone there, Miss Jones, who can tell us what you've learned?
Hi, I'm Jackson, and raisins are grapes that have been dried out.
That's really great. So Waterloo Primary have found out that raisins are actually grapes that are just drying out.
That's correct, absolutely, yes.
Are you impressed with the learning so far?
Very impressed. Well done, good work.
Great stuff. It's time to learn some more now. And this is all about how we dry food in order to preserve it. Enjoy.
Drying food to preserve it. Today, most of us are lucky enough to have fridges in our homes to keep our food nice and fresh. But have you ever wondered how people kept food fresh before we had electricity to power fridges? Well, for people living in very cold places, such as the Inuit people, who have lived in the Arctic for thousands of years, keeping their food fresh was easy, because the temperature outside was almost always below freezing. Just like living in one big fridge freezer. But people living in the rest of the world had to think of other ways to preserve their food, as warmer weather makes it hard to keep food fresh for very long. Luckily, the sun provided the perfect solution. People discovered that if they laid their harvest out in the sun's hot rays, it would dry, which meant their food stayed edible for much longer. This is because drying food removes the water by evaporating it, which means that bacteria and mould can't grow, as both need moisture to live on. Removing moisture and drying the food we grow is one of the oldest known ways of preserving food. And did you know that fruits aren't the only produce that people can dry to preserve? It's common in lots of countries around the world for fishermen to dry the fish they catch. And other foods, such as meat, can also be dried. Popular products you might have heard of are Parma ham from Italy and beef jerky from the United States of America. Sometimes when meat and fish are dried to preserve them, they have salt added, which helps to draw out any moisture. Some foods can also be smoked, which means that the food is laid over smoking wood timbers like this to dry it out. This process adds a nice smoky flavour. See if you can think of any other foods that might have been dried to preserve them. There are lots you might not even realise are dried. Foods like cereals for breakfast, noodles, the tea in tea bags, rice, pasta, and many, many more. Lots of things we regularly eat. Since humans discovered that drying food is a way of preserving it, we have developed lots of other clever ways to prevent it from spoiling too quickly, including pickling, freezing, and canning. Preserving our food means that we avoid wasting it, and it also means that even when the harvest is over, we still have lots of food to enjoy all year round.
Welcome back, children. We hope you enjoyed that video. Give us a wave and a cheer in your classrooms if you did. Now I'm joined by our second expert. This is Jonathan, who's the technical manager here. Hello, Jonathan.
Hi, Sam. Hi, children.
Now, I really enjoyed that video, Jonathan. One thing that struck me is the fact that so many foods are dried to preserve them. And I didn't realise I've got most of them in my store cupboard at home. And I go in there if I'm going to bake or cook something. And I sort of been taking it for granted that they stay fresh for so long. And we have some of them here, don't we? I can see we've got the raisins and the currants here. But what are some of the other things that we have, Jonathan?
We do have. So if you see on the table here, we've got what you'd see as a nice juicy apricot, and then the dried variety here.
So that is just the same thing, but just has had the water taken out of it?
The moisture taken out, yes.
Wow.
And then again, we've got nice juicy apple and a dried apple. Again, moisture taken out.
And that will just last, I mean, that in a fruit bowl will last how long?
Yeah, in a
few
fruit
weeks?
bowl, maybe a week maybe, and then in a packet in your cupboard, maybe this will last 6 months.
Wow.
So there's a lot more life on it.
That's great, yeah. Now I recognise these. I think that a lot of our children would have these for their tea, perhaps.
They would. So here we've got both sides of it. So you've got your dried beans here, which are then rehydrated back into your baked beans that you'll have with your dinner in the evenings.
So they've been dehydrated to this and then rehydrated to make baked beans.
That's right, yes.
Oh, very clever indeed. And this is my favourite. I absolutely love popcorn. But how do we go from this to this, Jonathan?
Yes, so you've got your corn, which will be in the fields, and this is what you'd see growing. It's then dried, mostly in the field, but then in warehouses afterwards, checked for its quality and its moisture levels, and then this is what you would see either in the cinema, or if you're lucky enough you might do this at home, making popcorn.
Yeah, I do that at home with my daughter. She really loves it. Now, is all this sort of dried the same way in the sun like the raisins, Jonathan?
It's not, no. There's different ways of drying foods. So you've got the raisins and the apricots, which are dried off the vine and off the plant on the floor in the sun. But then you've got the apples that are harvested in the field, in the orchards, are processed, cut and cored, and then oven dried to pull out all the moisture. With the beans, again, they are dried in the pods in the fields where they're grown and then just harvested from there.
Okay, and how about the corn on the cob? They take quite a while, don't they?
They do. It depends how you process them, but you can take up to a year.
Wow.
But most now do it slightly different, so it's speeded up from that.
Wow, oh my gosh. So why do we need to take as much water out as possible to keep them fresh?
Okay. Yeah, so we take out the moisture. As we briefly discussed earlier, if you keep a grape or any other fruit fresh in a bowl, it's not likely going to last more than a week. If you take the moisture out of it, you're preventing the bacteria from growing, preventing mould from developing and making your food go off. So it will last much longer.
Great, so it means we don't have to keep going to the supermarket to buy all these things. We can keep them in our store cupboard.
You can.
Fabulous stuff. Now, I know we've been talking a lot about dehydrating raisins and fruit here, but you do rehydrate fruit here as well, don't you?
We do, yes. We blanch fruit here, where we basically, and you can see a video on screen now of our factory. So here you see apricots being placed into hot water around 80-85 degrees. That'll stay in there for around 3 minutes time, when they'll pull them out and the fruit will be nice and juicy and soft.
So it just makes them nicer to eat. So they've just been plumped up with water, so when you bite into them they feel a little bit more sort of fleshy.
Yeah, so before you do that, they're a bit tougher and they're for cooking with, so that the moisture goes in the cooking process. So those ones are ready to eat, nice and juicy.
Fascinating. Well, I know that our children have been learning all about dehydration and rehydration this week in their classrooms with a really simple experiment. And I'd love to know how you got on. So let's go to St Cuthbert's Primary. And I'm wondering if someone in Mrs Robinson's class can tell me what you actually did with the experiment.
Hello, my name is Cody, and yesterday we looked at some raisins and put them in a tub and poured water in and left them overnight, and in the morning we came and had a look at the raisins and they got fatter and less wrinkles on them.
That sounds great. So what they did, Jonathan, they left the raisins in water overnight, and when they came back into school the next day they were much bigger.
Yes, well, yeah, that's it, and that's what a simplified version of what we do in our factory. So for raisins, we will place them into hot water, plump them up and make them ready for snacking on.
Let's go over to Waterloo Primary now. Miss Jones's class, can someone tell me some of the apparatus that you used to do this experiment?
Hello, my name is Christopher, and we used Wrinkly Raisins and a glass of water. So
Christopher used raisins, a glass and some water.
Okay.
You use a bit more machinery here, don't you, Jonathan?
As you saw in that video, we've got machinery, we've got really hot water and baskets which move, and vibratory conveyors to move the fruit along. So,
but yeah, really great work, Waterloo Primary. Let's go to Raymondsfield Primary now. Would it be possible to see your raisin?
Hold yours carefully.
There's lots and lots of raisins in there, so they're so much bigger, aren't they? You can just tell they've just actually really expanded full of water.
Yeah, so they're taking on that moisture and getting a bit bigger.
Well done. Let's finally go over to Clown Infant School now. Can we find out what Miss Barnett's class have concluded from doing the experiment?
The raisins soaked the water and they floated.
That's really great. So clown infants have concluded from doing the experiment that the raisins soaked up the water and they actually started to float.
Ah, lovely.
Made them more buoyant in the water. Children, you have done an amazing job with this week's experiment. Congratulations. We really hope you enjoyed it. Time to learn a little bit more now. And this is a short video all about raisins and how they make their journey from farm to fork.
Raisins from farm to fork. Did you know that a raisin starts life as a juicy grape? They grow in hot, dry climates, such as here in California, in the United States of America. The vines like to grow in dry, sandy soil and need plenty of sunshine and water to produce plump and juicy grapes. The established vines start life as small plants. They are planted in the ground in rows like this. Once the vines are established, they next produce what we call a bloom. It looks like this. So long as it's pollinated, each tiny flower will over time ripen and become a grape. And it takes 1 whole year before the vines can start to produce grapes ready for harvest. Once harvest time arrives, the grower examines the grapes using a refractometer. He checks the sweetness of the grapes, and only once he is satisfied that they are sweet and fully ripe does the harvest begin. To harvest the grapes, they use a machine like this. It moves between the rows of vines and shakes the grapes free. Next, they are laid out on this brown paper to dry naturally in the hot Californian sun. Once collected, they go along a conveyor belt and then into a lorry like this. It can take around 4 to 5 days for the grapes to dry out, turning from green to brown. Grapes lose so much water that they shrink to 1/4 of their original size. That's like a large bull elephant shrinking to the size of a gorilla. Once the raisins have dried, they are collected and taken to the pack house. Here they are washed and packed before being shipped to the United Kingdom for the next stage of their journey. The raisins travel across the Atlantic Ocean by ship before arriving into a UK port. Once here, they are taken to this packing factory in Northamptonshire to start the final part of their journey. The raisins are tipped onto a conveyor belt like this, so that they can be thoroughly washed once more, before being weighed and packed into bags. Finally, this metal detecting machine gives them one last check, before they are placed on a pallet and wrapped, ready to be sent to the shops for you to buy and enjoy.
Welcome back, children. We hope you enjoyed that video. Give us a wave and a cheer in your classrooms if you did. Yay, Waterloo Primary certainly did. Now, as you can see, I'm joined by both our experts. We've got Debbie back with us. We've still got Jonathan. Jonathan, I loved that video there. I love seeing the raisins sort of bobbling along the conveyor belt. There seem to be thousands there.
There is. We process around 100 tonnes a day of raisins through our factory, and that equates to the weight of about 5,000 of you children.
Wow, 5,000 children. That's a lot. We should put that to the test and do a little experiment at some point. A lot of children. And Debbie, you have some really tasty looking food in front of you here. Why do we have these here?
So I just wanted to show all the different things that you can do with raisins. So it's, a lot of people just think that you can use it as a snack in between meals, but it's not the case. You can use it, you know, for starters with your breakfast, so in different home bakery products. You can add lots of different fruits and raisins and sultanas into different cereals and porridges and things like that. There's also cereal bars that have raisins incorporated in it, but not only breakfast, you can also have it as your main meal, so you can put raisins in curries.
It's so amazing when you have a curry and then you bite into a raisin, you're like, what's that?
Absolutely.
You're not expecting something fruity, but it actually does add to the flavour,
work, doesn't it? Yes. And also you can put it in tagines as well and risottos. So, you know, you can't just think of raisins on its own. It is such a versatile fruit. You can have it in yogurts and also in salads also as well. So there are so many different things rather than just treating it as a little snack.
The one thing that I remember having it in as well, and actually was quite surprised, was a goat cheese cheese salad. So it was a salad, it had obviously everything you'd have in a normal salad, and then something about having the raisins and the goat's cheese together that really complemented the flavour. I guess we normally have, in a lot of kind of places, you can have grapes and cheese, can't you?
Yes, absolutely.
So it's the same as having raisins and cheese. It was so delicious. And I think actually if the children, perhaps when they get home, could give it a go, putting different raisins into different things and see what it tastes like. Some, you might put it into something and it might not work at all, but I think that most things it would work.
It does. It works really well. Yes, definitely.
Yeah, they're very, very tasty. And of course, children, it's important to remember that raisins are a source of potassium, manganese, copper, iron and vitamin B6, which we need for healthy hair, healthy skin and healthy eyes as well. Well, we've come to the end of this online field trip almost, guys. We're almost running out of time. Just enough time to get some questions for you, because I think that our children probably have things that they still want to clear up. So let's go over to St Cuthbert's Primary. Does Mrs Robinson's class have any questions for our experts?
Hi, I'm Toby. Why are raisins brown and not red, green and black like grapes?
That's a really good question. So why are raisins brown and not green and red or black like grapes, Jonathan?
Okay, well they're brown due to the sugar in the fruit caramelising when they're drying on the ground.
Really good question. Let's go over to Waterloo Primary now.
Hello, I'm Cara and I'd like to ask, how many fruit and vegetables do you grow in your farm?
Let's find out for you. So Jonathan, perhaps you could tell us, how many fruit and vegetables do you grow here?
On this site we don't actually grow anything. We buy and purchase all of our products from around the world, as we've said earlier.
Yeah, I think
15 different countries.
Yes, 15 different countries here, children, but nothing's actually grown here. I can vouch for that. I've had a look around, I haven't found anything growing. Really great question though. Let's go over to Ravensfield Primary now.
What kind of weather helps raisins to grow and how do they get to taste so nice?
Debbie, you'll be able to answer that. So what kind of weather do we need to grow grapes and raisin and turn them into raisins? And why do raisins taste so nice?
Okay. Grapes need a lot of sunshine, which is why they grow in California, which is why they grow so many. And the sun helps them really plump up and get lots really juicy. So they need really hot, sunny weather, which is why California is the perfect climate for that.
Really great question, children. Let's get our final question. Let's go over to Clown Infants.
My name is Matthew and my question is, why are raisins called raisins?
That is a really good question, Matthew. So Matthew would like to know, why are raisins called raisins? Very knowledgeable. Did you know that, children? Give me a wave and a cheer in your classrooms if you knew that raisins were the French word for grape. Oh, they already knew. They already knew. Thank you so much, both of you. One final question from me. What's your favourite part of your job?
I love being able to go around all the different countries to see the fruit actually growing and seeing it actually harvesting and seeing the people that actually do the growing of the fruit and the collecting of the fruit.
That sounds like a really great job, Debbie. You've got a great job. How about you, Jonathan?
It's not quite as exotic, but I really enjoy making sure that all the products that we produce here get to the retailers in the best condition they can and to your homes.
Yeah, well, we appreciate it, Jonathan. I'm sure all the children do appreciate it as well. I'm afraid we've run out of time today, children. But if you'd like to sign up for a Farm to Fork Trail, you can do that for your school. It's really simple to do. You just need to get online on our website. And once you're on there, the process is simple and it's really fun. Just like the kids that you can see on the screen right now, they're getting really stuck in. So make sure you do that if you haven't done that already. But from myself and Debbie and Jonathan here in the factory here today, it's goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for taking part, St Cuthbert's. Thank you so much, Waterloo Primary. Great to have Miss Jones's class taking part today. Let's go to Ravensfield Primary now and say goodbye. Thank you, children. And finally, let's go over to Clown Infants. Thank you so much for taking part again, children. And if you'd like to take part in our next online field trip, you can learn all about marvellous Marmite, one of the nation's favourite spreads. So pop that in your diary, and don't forget we've got lots of these online field trips on our website ready for you to watch, and loads of great resources for you to download and learn about all different types of food as well. So make